My name is Zian, and I love you. I'm making this film, We Are the Most Beautiful People, because first, it's something I inherently believe. We all want to be seen for who we are.
Me, beautiful means anything that makes me feel, because I think there is beauty in like sad things as well, and there's beauty in some things that make you really angry. So I think for me, it's anything that's emotive, because I use the word beautiful constantly.
Story for another time, but talking about myself and thinking about that term disability, honestly, I love it. I mean, some people say, how can you love that, right? You know, you're a black person and they feel like, well, that's got to be your identity first. But I'm also a person with a disability, and that's who I am. And so, unfortunately, there are those who, you know, maybe in their next lifetime won't see those disabilities and won't see those identities like that. I mean, I can't say that it'll happen or not. I doubt it, of course, but for me, I have faith that who I am will just continue on regardless of whether or not they want to be negative about that or how they want to see me.
You always hear about racism or sexism or ageism, but you hear less about ableism.
Why isn't the disability justice movement in history books? If they don't see us, they don't have to write about us or talk about us.
So disability justice, came from people of color in the Bay Area, Patty Burns, Stacey Milburn, myself, Mia Mingus, and we put it out there because we realized that the disability rights movement was so white and didn't really put race and queerness and transgender people, together. So we came up with, especially Patty Byrne, came up with disability justice, in our artistic disability communities. We never thought that this topic would be like an academic term because it came from the community.
Just to like wake up to the power that we have. We are, some estimates say like 20% of the population, but we know that it's closer to like 30 to 40% if we count in like all the ways we define disability. That's a huge like amount of people of this population. Not only that, but disabled people, we naturally merge across every race group, across every, gender group, nationality, etc. We have this perspective where we are always also members of another community. So like there's an inherently like intersectional nature to the way anyone experiences life. But I think it's really salient for disabled people, or has an opportunity to become more salient quicker in our development. And that's useful. But I want the disability rights movement to change movements, period. Like to change the way we think about organizing in general. Because as someone that spent time youth organizing, queer organizing, immigrant organizing, super ableist cultures, and just like the pace of work, the amount of sacrifice, the martyrdom that goes into it, you need almost like an unrealistic amount of like privilege, wealth, time to be able to even sacrifice that in the first place to make a difference, right? When a lot of us feel like we don't have much to sacrifice with. Like when we show up to these like movements or protests, it's like all our energy, all our time, our whole body.
There's definitely a governmental divide, because they put the kids in one area of funding, they put the adults in another area of funding, and then they further split the adults by saying those with physical disabilities and those with intellectual disabilities. And there's three of us sit here fighting over resources that shouldn't be like divided amongst the three of us. It should be You know, we all receive funding individually. So we can team up as a team and actually go after the one person that's causing us the most problem, which is the government.
Girls, women and girls with disabilities face multiple discrimination. We are at the bottom as compared to men with disabilities and women in general.
Well, that could be a hard question, really. Hearing and deaf people, that it's not equal. Communication is really a challenge. Sometimes we have to write notes, and it's just very difficult to understand. And it's easy to get discouraged when there's not clear communication, trying to explain how this happens or how that happens, and trying to get justice in this area. And so some people will stay away or shun deaf people, and we really need to be working together to communicate. I remember in school there were people that would get away and shun me, and some even friends, good friends, when they treat me on their level, then begin to understand and feel like there's justice. It's hard to raise this to a higher level. I'm deaf, and they say, "Oh, you're deaf. Oh, you're deaf. Oh, you're dumb." But you know what? I just keep on going. I'm deaf. We're the same, I realize. And God made us all.
Is we are not a fully realized movement until we are a fully inclusive movement. Meaning you can't talk about wanting disability rights or justice and be homophobic. You can't say, I want women's rights and be racist. So that's what it means. You can't talk about Black liberation and hate Black trans. You can't talk about economic upward mobility, but then don't want to teach people with disabilities entrepreneurship. Like you just can't be contradictory. I can't demand my freedom while being an oppressor.
The disability rights movement need to embrace the disability justice movement, which embraces principles like intersectionality, leadership of the most impacted, and being anti-capitalist as being cornerstones of the movement. The movement also needs to come to terms with how it applies to our cultures and how ableism is something that everyone deals with.
So ableism is just it's a privilege. And again, I have to tell people that that's not just physical disabilities, they're invisible disabilities, like my hearing loss. If I take my hearing aids off and don't speak and walk down the street, you would not know that I had a hearing loss. Because I look just like you.
I think people really need to look at the way that they are talking to and treating disabled people, because often they just treat us like a child, and we're not. A lot, like even if there is a disabled child, don't treat them like a baby. Like treat them like a human being. That's what they are. So
working in Your Charitable Trust, working with people who are specially abled, has actually taught me a lot about myself. It's taught me how to be patient. It's taught me how to, I thought I was empathetic. This has just taken it to the next level. Unconditional love, a non-judgmental, a friend, not, people who don't judge. I think these are qualities that every human being wants in their life and wants for themselves. And I think being surrounded by people with these disabilities, one tends to automatically become like that, because in a weird roundabout way, having a person who's specially abled in your life is therapeutic in nature.
For me, the most beautiful thing is when a person or people can just be their full self. That really unadulterated authenticity of loving who oneself is, and just knowing that that's not perfect, knowing that that is complicated and messy, knowing that there are contradictions, but just being proud of all of that, not shying away from the parts that our culture and society tells us are negative, but really just being like, this is who I am. And every single part of who I am, whether it's my disability or whether it's some part of my personality, is good. It's good. It doesn't mean I can't become a better person. It doesn't mean I can't strive to learn more or be more compassionate or whatever it might be, but it's this sense of all people are beautiful and good, and sometimes it takes our brains a little unpacking and dismantling of things we've been told through our culture to understand that. And so to me, the beauty is in that self-confidence and in that wholeness, but it's also in the process of dismantling the things that keep us from getting there. That's actually like a beautiful process too.
I do personally think everybody is beautiful, but I don't know that the whole world would agree. Art therapy, for me, with many people, especially adults, has meant finding their creative voice, finding their style, their rhythm, whatever, their way of speaking visually, which is unique to each individual. And yet, if they are pleased with what they're doing, not only is the creation beautiful, but I think they feel more beautiful for having made it.
So the word beautiful, for me, it's seeing people for who they are. Doesn't matter where they come from, what their background is. They may not like you, but you can still see them for who they are. You can still connect with them. And if you're able to do that, it means that you're human. You know, we are all human, and our humanity is beautiful. And I just appreciate that about individuals, to share with them, to have that shared understanding, to connect with them. That is beautiful.
Forever, since humans existed, there's been disability. We should be further. We should be further. We live in this world together.